In a sealed glass case at the Shrine of the Book in Jerusalem sit Aramaic parchment fragments recovered from the caves at Qumran. 11 separate copies of the Book of Enoch were found there, more than most books that remained in the Western Old Testament. The oldest of these fragments date to the 3rd century BCE. The Book of Enoch was removed from public reading by the Council of Laodicea in 364 CE and treated as dangerous by later Latin authorities. When the Dead Sea Scrolls were opened in 1947, those 11 copies surfaced older than any surviving New Testament manuscript. Enoch records the binding of Azazel under rocks and darkness. He describes the Watchers imprisoned in the depths of the earth for 70 generations. He is shown an abyss at the edge of creation that serves as their permanent prison. A covering remains until the Great Judgment. In the next several minutes, you will see the exact commands, the geography of that prison, what modern deep-sea research has found in the same vertical space, and why the seal was placed where it was. If forbidden biblical history fascinates you, hit subscribe. Every week, we uncover what was removed from Scripture. But here's what makes this stranger. The material we are working with comes from the Book of the Watchers, chapters 1 through 36 of 1st Enoch. The binding commands sit in chapter 10, verses 4 through 14. The prison geography appears in chapters 18 and 21. The Aramaic witness includes 4Q202, fragments 2 through 4, which partially preserve the opening of chapter 10, and 4Q204, which covers portions of both chapter 10 and chapter 18. These fragments are held at the Shrine of the Book in Jerusalem and date to the late 3rd and early 2nd centuries BCE. They are fragmentary. Lacunae exist around some of the precise wording of the valleys and the abyss, yet the binding commands themselves survive in sufficient Aramaic to confirm the later versions. The only complete continuous text of these chapters is the Ge'ez tradition, preserved by the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, historically associated with Aksum and later monastic libraries. All modern critical editions rest on that Ge'ez for the full narrative. A Greek witness also exists, the Akhmim Codex, found in a monk's grave in Egypt in 1886 and 1887, covers substantial portions of the prison descriptions in chapters 18, 19, and 21. Synkelus preserves additional early Greek readings of the binding orders. Michael Knibb published the Oxford Critical Ge'ez text in 1978. Joseph Millick published the Aramaic fragments from Cave 4 in 1976. George Nicholsburg produced the Hermeneia commentary on chapters 1 through 36 in 2001, treating the prison geography as a real spatial tour. Kelly Coblentz-Bouch mapped the same sites in her 2003 study of the geography of chapters 17 through 19. These manuscripts are older than any surviving New Testament manuscript, and this is where it gets disturbing. Apocalyptic literature deals in symbolic beasts, numbered angels, and cosmic thrones. This passage does not. The level of sensory detail is wrong for the genre. It reads the way a field report reads: flat, sequential, specific, hand, foot, opening, rocks, darkness, face covered so that light cannot reach it, no editorializing, no flourish. The writer records the commands and the locations as if filing a site report. The text begins with this. Chapter 10, verses 4 through 8. The Most High speaks to Raphael. Bind Azazel hand and foot. Cast him into the darkness. Make an opening in the desert, which is in Dudael, and cast him therein. Place upon him rough and jagged rocks, cover him with darkness, let him abide there forever. Cover his face that he may not see light. On the day of the great judgment he shall be cast into the fire. The term is Dudael. In Ge'ez, Dudael. In the Greek, Deduel, spoken Do-da-hel. Scholarly consensus links the name to Cauldron of God or Kettle of God, the same wilderness destination associated with the scapegoat of Leviticus 16. The name appears only here in 1st Enoch. It encodes the place of permanent containment. The command is procedural, not visionary, not symbolic. Bind the hands, bind the feet. Open the ground, drop the body. Stack the jagged stones, seal the darkness. Blind the face. The sentence is temporary only in the sense that a final transfer to fire still awaits. Until that day, the installation remained sealed. Precision was the problem, not vagueness. The text gives the operational steps for containing a being that is not to be destroyed, only held. But the text doesn't stop there. Chapter 10, verses 11 through 14. The Most High speaks to Michael. Go, bind Samjaza and his associates who united themselves with women. When their sons have slain one another and they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth, until the day of their judgment and of their consummation. In those days they shall be led off to the abyss of fire, to the torment and the prison in which they shall be confined forever. The gaze can read valleys of the earth, or under the hills of the earth. The parallel in Jubilees chapter 5 verse 6 states the depths of the earth. The language of 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 4 uses Tartarus. Jude verse 6 speaks of eternal chains under darkness. The term marks subterranean detention, a holding facility with a fixed term of 70 generations before the final transfer. A calendar number is attached to the sentence, 70 generations, not open-ended myth. The earth itself is treated as the detention structure. The Watchers are not erased. They are installed beneath the surface and left there under a time seal. What follows in chapter 18 is stranger still, verses 11 through 16, and the parallel description in chapter 21, verses 7 through 10. Enoch is taken to a deep abyss with columns of heavenly fire. The columns fall both toward the height and toward the depth. Beyond that abyss lies a place with no firmament of heaven above it and no firmly founded earth beneath it. No water, no birds, a waste and horrible place. Uriel identifies it. This place is the end of heaven and earth. This has become a prison for the stars and the host of heaven. In the parallel account, Uriel states it plainly. This place is the prison of the angels. Here they will be confined forever. The Geas term for the abyss is kalai, spoken kahlahi. The Greek uses chasma and abyssos. The range is bottomless chasm, the place beyond the foundations of the earth. The same vocabulary reappears for the prison of the stars, and later for the fiery valleys in the Book of Parables. The seer is shown a location that has neither sky nor ground in the ordered sense, yet remains a physical site of confinement. The text does not speak in symbols of beasts or numbered thrones. It records a place, a cleft, columns of fire, and an angelic identification of the facility. The binding of one leader, the time detention of the group under the earth, the permanent prison at the edge of creation. Each step more specific than the last. The text has not finished. There is one more detail from the same passage that deserves attention. Chapter 18, verses 12 through 15. Beyond the abyss, Enoch sees a place that has no firmament of heaven above it, and no firmly founded earth beneath it. There is no water upon it, and no birds. It is a waste and horrible place. The angel states the identification, this place is the end of heaven and earth. This has become a prison for the stars and the host of heaven. The stars that roll over the fire are those that transgressed the commandment of the Lord in the beginning of their rising. They did not come forth at their appointed times. He was wroth with them and bound them until the time when their guilt should be consummated for 10,000 years. The Geas phrase is tafsametu lasame wa lameder, spoken tafsametu. It means the outer limit where ordered creation ceases. The same site is duplicated in chapter 21 with the explicit statement that this is the prison of the angels. They will be confined forever. The geography collapses ordinary categories. The location is under the earth and beyond its edge at the same time, not a metaphor. A recorded place at the boundary of the ordered world. And then comes the part that completes the installation. The binding in chapter 10 and the prison in chapters 18 and 21 are permanent until the Great Judgment. Chapter 10 verse 6, chapter 10 verse 13, chapter 21 verse 10, the covering is not temporary. God does not destroy the Watchers. He constructs a sealed facility and leaves them inside it. The broader cosmic geography of chapters 17 through 19 includes the storehouses and the mouths of the deep waters. The waters that cover the foundations function as the final barrier. The sea itself becomes the lid. What is bound beneath cannot rise. The restraint is structural, not merely punitive. No verse names the ocean floor. The seal imagery is drawn from the depth language already present and from the permanence of the covering the text records. The part that shouldn't be possible is this. The text describes beings sealed in darkness and under the earth, covered, unable to rise until a fixed time. Modern research has documented extensive microbial and chemosynthetic communities living in the deep subsurface beneath the ocean floor and in Dudael, trenches at depths from 5,800 meters to 9,533 meters. Dark oxygen is produced by mineral nodules on the seafloor without sunlight. Life persists in sealed or near-sealed environments inside sediments and crust for geological timescales sustained by chemical energy rather than light. Campaigns by the Joides Resolution, the Fenduji submersible in the Kuril-Kamchatka and Aleutian trenches, and earlier subseafloor studies published in Nature in 2025, and in Science years before established the same vertical space. Living systems contained beneath the ocean floor in permanent darkness under immense pressure. The text describes sealed living things that remain where they were placed. The record shows sealed living systems that remain where they are. The correspondence is observational, nothing more. Here's what the translators left out. The standard English rendering in Charles reads, "Bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth." The J's can be read under the hills of the earth, or under the rocks of the ground. The parallel in Jubilees chapter 5 verse 6 states the depths of the earth. The English flattens the vertical dimension. What is lost is the sense of burial rather than simple lateral confinement. The difference turns a valley into an installation under the surface. But what the standard translation hides is this. The standard English gives a deep abyss with columns of heavenly fire, and this place is the prison of the angels. Behind it stands the Ge'ez Kalei and the Greek chasma reaching to the abyss, together with the technical phrase Bet Moke Homu, the house of their imprisonment. The English softens the physical cleft that extends both upward and downward, and turns a permanent detention facility into a more general prison. The technical term marks a structure built to hold, not a temporary holding area. The suppression starts at the Council of Laodicea in 364 CE. Canon 59 restricts public reading in the churches to the canonical books of the Old and New Testaments. Non-canonical works are excluded from liturgical use. Jerome, in the Vulgate prefaces, treats Enoch as apocryphal and notes that its antiquity made authenticity impossible to verify. Augustine in City of God, Book 15, Chapter 23, acknowledges that Jude quotes Enoch as prophecy, yet argues the writings were rightly omitted from the Jewish canon because their antiquity rendered them suspect. Tertullian had defended the authenticity of Enoch. Origen remained ambivalent. The Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church kept the book in its canon, outside the reach of the Western and Eastern imperial churches. In 1773, James Bruce brought 3 Ge'ez manuscripts to Europe. Richard Lawrence produced the first English translation in 1821. R.H. Charles issued the Standard Critical Edition in 1906. The irony is direct. Jude chapter 1, verses 14 and 15 quotes 1 Enoch chapter 1, verse 9 almost verbatim. The New Testament cites as prophecy the book later excluded from the canon. Now here's where it gets active. Full critical editions of the Aramaic fragments appeared only with Milik in 1976, and the more recent Drawnal edition in 2020. Access to certain Ethiopian manuscript photographs and readings remains limited by conservation priorities and institutional schedules. Some Greek readings from the Akhmim Codex still circulate primarily through secondary citations. The ordinary explanation is conservation of fragile parchment, funding cycles for Near Eastern archaeology, and the priority given to canonical biblical manuscripts over pseudepigrapha. The ordinary reasons produce the same practical effect as deliberate restriction, delayed, and incomplete public access to the primary witnesses. Now let me be clear. I am not saying there is a literal doorway on the ocean floor leading to a prison of angels, or that deep-sea drilling has confirmed the location of Dudael. The Book of Enoch is not a map to a physical underworld chamber that can be opened with modern equipment. But what the text describes, when read carefully, is a permanent sealed subterranean installation for the Watchers, complete with time detention, physical covering, and a final transfer to an abyss. The sea and the depths function in the broader Enochic geography as barriers and storehouses. Living systems do exist in sealed environments beneath the ocean floor. What we have to confront is a text that treats the Earth itself as an engineered containment facility, complete with time-stamped detention, a physical covering, and a final transfer to an abyss, while the only complete manuscripts of that text remained outside the Western canon for more than 1,000 years. The Aramaic fragments remain in Jerusalem. The J's manuscripts remain in Ethiopia. The Abyss language has not been edited out of the critical editions. The subseafloor biosphere is still there. The covering described in the text has not been lifted, the seal is still intact.